And now,
it's 10 a.m.
let's just get down to it.
And it's time for your sports fix.
Strap yourselves in, folks.
From two guys who have covered the teams you're passionate about for years.
We are professionals.
This is Jake Scott and Ben Anderson on 97.5 The KSL Sports Zone.
Do you love the rain? Does it make you dance when you're drunk with your friends at a party?
Spring breaks for getting
color.
out, stretching your legs, stretching your legs.
Whoa.
That is a low blow. Why? Why, Sarah? Just because they were talking about that during the break doesn't mean that you have to play it.
Any excuse I get to play that drop.
No.
And it's almost spring break for some people.
No.
It is.
Yeah.
So we're going to be playing it a
Coming
couple
up
more
on it.
times.
No. That's how we're starting?
I guess so.
That's how it is?
All
right.
Are you limping?
I know that. What?
Are you limping when you walked in?
No.
Or were you just walking weird?
I'm walking weird?
You apparently
Is your
okay.
toe? Maybe it's his toe.
No, my toe's okay today.
Okay.
Oh, that.
Maybe you were just holding your bag on your leg weird and you looked like you were limping. Do you know if you turned an ankle or something?
No.
You're okay.
I'm just getting old, I guess.
Okay.
I've got an awkward gait now.
Okay.
It's more of a shuffle. Well, Sarah, I would ask how you're doing, but I don't care anymore.
Yeah.
Ben,
Lost that right.
how are you doing?
Things are good. Life's good.
They are?
Yeah.
Everything's good in the parenting world?
Well, actually, my daughter hurt her ankle at school yesterday, but she's fine. 8-year-olds don't actually get hurt, knock on wood.
Yeah,
You
right.
know?
But no, I get your point, though.
Yeah.
Like, well, I don't know how my 2-year-old hits her head on the corner of the, counter
Uh-huh.
2-3 times a week.
Yeah.
I have no idea how half her head is in stitches.
Did you
know
ever
what
have
I mean?
stitches?
I had stitches when I was a kid, yeah.
Yeah.
Hit my face on a jungle gym, or you remember those big metal things that you could climb on?
Yeah, I did the same thing.
And I kind of swung around and just, bam, nailed my face right on it.
They had those rounded ladders, kind of walking up to a jungle gym in elementary school. And I was trying to walk up one in the rain, and I slipped through, and I hit the back of my head on the bar. Needed stitches there. Ran into a table one time when I was, 3. Just got some in my eyebrow. Skateboarding, one in my eyebrow. So, I had some stitches also. So, outside of that, when I knock on wood again, haven't had any stitches for the kids. Yeah, it's amazing.
They're durable.
Yeah, they're durable. Thank goodness. They need to be.
No, it's great. And by the way, isn't that that's a science thing, right? The bones are more flexible and it's amazing how Mother Nature works, right? Built to withstand the rigors of youth. Anyway, all right. Well, I feel bad for her ankle. Put some ice on it.
Yeah,
She doing all right today?
It's fine.
What was she doing? Playing a little soccer?
She said she was in PE.
Do you ever look back on the conditions surrounding you? And this is really easy for me because I live close to my elementary school and see how things have changed. But think of there were sinkholes and giant sprinklers and all sorts of real hazards that we just
Traps.
yeah, right. We're playing football on this field and there's
Yeah. They're better taken care of now.
it seems that way.
Yeah, it seems that way. I agree with you.
And speaking of the mangled metal that we used to climb on or whatever, it seems like I know that playgrounds get a bad rap because people are like, oh, they don't need to be overly safe or blah, blah, blah. But playgrounds have evolved light years and are awesome. Awesome. They have shades over playgrounds. Do you remember when playgrounds were just off limits for large parts of the summer because you'd be scalded to death?
Everything was a million degrees. Yep.
That's a thing of the past. Just because someone put a mild amount of thought into it where they're like, hey, what if we put up some shades here and there? I bet we'd expand the usefulness of this playground by
the
40%.
Padding is soft that's underneath it. It's not either just some
it doesn't,
wood chips or it's rock hard.
It doesn't need to be the gravel. Do you remember the gravel that was
they tried.
Was an issue?
They tried.
How about some rubbery surface that works pretty well? All these things are okay.
Figured it out.
We don't need the mangled metal. But part of me misses it. Part of you misses playing football and running your guy by the sinkhole. so you could get open. You know, the tricks of the trade. Yeah, little Benny broke his leg, but I caught a touchdown.
Right. It was worth it.
It was totally worth it. Oh, man. All right, Ben. Here, I'll start here today. So if you've not seen our setup for Jazz pre, half, and post in our studio, which likely you haven't, because we're like tucked away in a corner of the arena. Basically, Ben, what would you say the dimensions of the room are? Like
8 by 10?
8 by 10?
Maybe something like that. Maybe a little bit longer, but not much.
Now, here's what's cool, though. We have 3 giant TVs that are set up and ready to roll.
Yeah.
So on big sports days / nights when we have Jazz games, it's actually really cool to be in our studio, if I do say. You feel free to disagree, but it's really cool because we can watch everything, and it's just this cool thing. Anyway, tonight, Ben, is going to be one of those nights where it's going to be really cool to be in our studio.
Okay.
Now, the Jazz Bulls is what it is.
It's a basketball game. That has to be played.
It's a basketball game. I always like at least watching NBA basketball, but as we can dive into, it's not the most interesting of matchups. That's going to be on one screen because we are there to do a job after all. On the other screen, starting at 7 o'clock on ESPN2, the number 20 ranked BYU Cougars will be in Ames, Iowa to take on the 6th ranked Iowa State Cyclones. A very good team last time I checked.
Yep.
So cool to have BYU in this league where, and soon to be Utah, of course, but where they're playing interesting, fun, awesome, relevant matchups every single night.
I mean, team that could be in the Final Four in Iowa State.
Years of having to try and make Portland relevant.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Years of being like, well, maybe Loyola hired a coach and I don't know. Gonzaga is going to win the league.
Yeah.
End of story. After years of that, we now have BYU with one of their best teams ever. And they still got a little meat left on that bone, I suppose, to cement that. But it certainly looks that way. In the best league in the land, with a chance to get a huge road upset that would absolutely skyrocket their seeding potential, which is good already.
Yeah, they jump up to 16th, 15th in the country with a win, and then you're talking about a 3 seed. In
an atmosphere that is going to be bonkers. Again, not an atmosphere where the BYU fans outnumber the dozens of whatever fans who showed up, but like a bonkers atmosphere. So cool.
Yep.
So that's going to be television number 2. Television number 3, starting at 7:30 on CBS Sports Network. The Aggies of Utah State will be on the road in San Jose to take on the Spartans. Now, the Spartans not the most interesting of opponents, but the race, Ben, at the end of the Mountain West is really interesting as it comes down the stretch. The Mountain West Conference tournament is going to be really interesting because this is the best that this particular league has been in a very long time, and the Aggies are sitting on top of it.
Can lock up at least a share of the regular season title with a win tonight.
And then, by the way, get yourself to Logan and the Spectrum on Saturday when they take on New Mexico, because that's going to be bonkers. That's going to be a crazy, crazy environment. It's so cool that college basketball is so relevant this year. I love it, and it does help when the Jazz are going through the process to steal Philadelphia's slogan. And maybe, Jazz Bulls on early March night isn't going to be the most interesting thing, but you know what's going to be awesome? Taking in all 3 of those basketball games tonight. I'm so excited to do it. And by the way, watching basketball, may everybody have the pleasure of watching basketball with a former Division I college coach.
Yeah.
Because watching games with Tim is so fun.
And then, when the Jazz game ends, 9:30-ish? It's right when Arizona State, Utah women's basketball tips off.
Okay.
Tournament basketball. Then we're in actual tournament basketball right now for the Pac-12 women.
Please tell me that's not on the Pac-12 network.
Oh, boy.
It is?
Pac-12 network. Might be box score watching that one. I don't know if you get it in the arena.
No. No, we don't get it.
But it is the time. If you are, basketball does not have the same draw as football. College football, the NFL, it's obvious. It's just not there. The college basketball does not rival college football. And the NBA is very good, but it does not rival the NFL as far as just kind of casual watchability for most people. There's just so many teams and so many names. Whereas the NFL, it's a little bit easier to track everybody, I feel like, and you only have to do it once a week. But you get into this time of March, some of the games start to heat up. There was, 2 good NFL games two good NBA games last night. There's a lot more coming up this week, even if the Jazz Bulls is not necessarily one of them. And then all the men's tournaments kick off next week. The women's tournaments start today. This is the best time for basketball that we have in our country.
I really wish I was going to Vegas for the conference tournaments. I used to do that quite a bit. With my expanding role with the Jazz, I've kind of done that less and less over the years. It's such a fun time. I tell people all the time, it's such a fun time to be in Las Vegas. It's amazing. There's basketball going on everywhere, and it's tournament basketball, and it's accessible, and it's affordable for the most part. And Vegas is Vegas, and if you're a sports fan, Vegas during conference tournament time has turned into a crazy cool event.
Do we expect the Big 12 tournament ever to move to Vegas?
Yes.
It's in
Kansas City, and it's been there forever.
We think eventually it'll go there? Has that been announced? Because they're moving Media Day there.
They are moving Media Day to Vegas, which is great.
That's just kind of the implication, right? That's where you're going to head?
And listen, I like tradition. Like, there are a lot of traditions that I will really stick up for. So I understand why traditional Big 12 fans would want to keep it in Kansas City, because that's a great tradition. I mean, like, the ACC still goes to Greensboro, right? Which is crazy. But if Vegas is now in your footprint, do everybody a favor and put it in Vegas.
Yeah.
Because those fans that are grumpy about it moving out of Kansas City, you just say, hey, wait, why don't you give Vegas a try? Just 1 year. Just dip your toe in the water and see how you like it. They'll all come away from it going, oh, yeah, that's way better.
That's way easier. They actually have all the hotels for us. It's not going to be hard to get a room. You're going to have other things you can do.
There's so much stuff to do. And no knock against Kansas City, which I have had multiple fun experiences in Kansas City. It's a great town.
The high.
But there's only one Vegas. And the weather.
I mean, kind of interesting. Right now, the high today in Vegas is 68. The high in Kansas City is 62. So it's not that far off one another, but it's a different type of
Now, let me ask you this. In Vegas, is the wind blowing your face clean off?
No. There's no Midwestern winds in Las Vegas.
So that's part of it.
You can bundle up.
Much more consistently good weather in March in Vegas, for sure.
Yeah, I'll take it. So, yeah, I would imagine that we'll go there. The NBA is doing everything it can to put every important event in Las Vegas.
And here's one thing, too, that I discovered, I really discovered when planning my own wedding. When everything is cookie cutter because people do it all the time and are really good at it, that's pretty awesome.
Yep.
Like, when Vegas's whole reason for existence is hospitality, my guess is they're really good for it and really good at it and prepared for anything.
We're going to get another. I mean, they've got to start building an NBA arena today. I mean, they have to start because
why not T-Mobile?
There are so many. Well, the problem is there are going to be so many conference tournaments already down there trying to play in those two buildings, right? Like, you're trying to.
Oh, there's now with no Pac-12, there's an opening
that's
at
true.
T-Mobile.
I didn't consider that.
And
you're right.
The Pac-12 abandoned MGM to go to T-Mobile. Nobody has filled in the gaps at NGM. The WCC is still at the Orleans Arena, which I will always tell anybody is like a sneaky, really cool place to watch basketball, actually, if you haven't experienced it. I just sidled up next to Jerry Tarkanian one year at the WCC tournament. Dude, just chilling. It was awesome.
But there's Thomas and Mack. And
and the Thomas and Mack, and there's two basketball
There's two courts there.
Facilities. There's Cox Arena, which isn't going to host a conference tournament because it's just not big enough.
I haven't been to T-Mobile Arena.
But Thomas and Mack is T-Mobile's great.
How many does it hold? Not that matters. I'm just curious. In all honesty,
it's like an MEA gym.
Okay, it says 20,000.
Yeah.
Wow. So bigger than the Delta Center now. Okay, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they don't need to get on that. Yeah, and if you can do it where the Knights are playing and it's not that big of a deal, fine. If
Basketball, hockey, flip-flops all over the country. They'd make it work.
Okay, maybe they'll just do that. Well, great. No, I think Vegas makes total sense. And yes, having the two floors at Thomas and Mack makes things a lot easier as well. And then if you do have T-Mobile and you've got the ability to use it and there's no overlap with the NHL, you're great.
What about all the zillions of other arenas that are there as part of the casinos that you could easily throw a basketball court down?
And the nice thing is, it's what the Jazz did. I know they were doing it when they were in Orlando during the bubble, but they have so many hotels and so many banquet rooms that you can put full-court basketball hoops in these banquet rooms and have good full-size practice
They're prepared for anything.
Yeah. And it's easy to travel to. It's easy for people to get to.
And
people want to go.
And the stigma of, well, you don't want to take a team of young people to Las Vegas. Who knows what they'll get up to. That argument has become less and less relevant over the years for whatever reason.
For sure.
I would argue that young people are going to find mischief in wherever they are. They could be in Topeka, Kansas, or Las Vegas, Nevada, and if they want to sneak out of their hotel room at night and find trouble, probably going to do that. And actually, I think that, look at how many people, or talk to anybody who lives in Vegas. If you want to avoid that stuff in Vegas, it's not hard. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
If you're a coach and trying to keep your team focused, it's not hard.
No, kids can get in trouble anywhere.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
Yes, kids can get in trouble wherever they want. So I understand Vegas never closes. You can really get into a deeper set of trouble in Vegas than you can other places, but you have backstops to prevent that. You have your curfew. You have, you know what I mean? You have consequences, and you have a kid's in an important spot where they've got to buckle up and buckle down for the tournament. So, no, I think it's fun. I'm glad tournament basketball's here. I would fully support it moving to Vegas. And
it's only a matter
seems
of
to be
time.
trending that direction.
They have to, you know what they called like the old guard of mafia dons in the Godfather book, Mustache Pete's. As soon as you get the Mustache Pete's on board, the old guard Big 12, then it's all good.
Yep.
You just got to get them used to the idea. But trust me, everybody would rather go to Vegas for a conference tournament than Kansas City.
Other than the Kansas Jayhawks, maybe.
Well, yeah, I'm sure they love having a home court advantage, and they've been running the league for years.
Right.
So maybe they'll continue to do so, but...
Hey, I'd like that we've talked more college basketball this season than I have in my 10 years of radio combined. Easily. I know you had a Jimmer year. I missed the Jimmer year, so that doesn't compare for you.
Yeah, there was a Jimmer 2 years, but yeah, really one that was...
the height of Jimmer. National Player of the Year run. This is the most college basketball... you and I may have talked more college basketball this segment than we did for the first 2 years of our show.
Yeah, it's great. It's relevant. It's awesome.
And it's fun to watch. And it's legitimately fun to watch. I'm looking forward to all of these games.
I should have to eat my shoe or something if BYU goes into Ames and beats Iowa State, meaning they'd have 2 top 10 road victories in the Big 12.
Well, when you can shoot...
I would have said that wouldn't happen in 20 years, let alone the first year.
When you can shoot, you have a puncher's chance, and that's the real advantage.
And you know what? That's going to be, I think, BYU's blueprint going forward. And maybe the reason they never win the league, but may also be the reason that they remain very relevant in the league.
If you can maintain that identity. It's a hard identity to maintain. Sometimes it just comes together. And they have a couple of good big guys, too. I don't want to pretend there's only one way they win games.
But if you lean into we're never going to be more athletic than you, so we're not even going to try and recruit athletes. We're just going to pluck the dead eyes out of the 24-hour fitness.
Find
that
a bunch
can't
of Dallin
miss.
Halls.
Yeah,
Yep.
right. And that's going to shoot us into a lot of games. And you know what? BYU's been able to find functional bigs, too, in the past. So maybe they combine those two things and are a pretty formidable foe.
Get some transfers, get some kids like Jackson Robinson, Yeah, absolutely. They don't have to just try and get the, only the top players in the state and hope that's going to work out.
Because BYU, really, you look at their history, they've been able to recruit shooters always. Always. I mean, going back to the Travis Hansons of the world, But even BYU passed on J.C. Carroll.
Yeah.
That he wanted to go to, it's like a Jim McMahon to Notre Dame story, but J.C. Carroll ended up at Utah State, obviously. But shooters, always. Jimmer himself, always been able to find shooters. Really lean into that. And be like, we're never going to play defense ever. Going to get beat on every play. And actually, that's not the identity of this BYU team, by the way.
How did Sam Merrill end up at Utah State? With all due respect to Utah State.
I think he's a Utah State legacy guy.
Is he?
I think the question is, how did Sam Merrill stay at Utah State?
Yeah. Man, we've had some great players come through. We've had some really good players in our state.
I'm embarrassed I don't know that. We'll have to ask Scotty G, but I'm pretty sure Sam Merrill's a Utah State legacy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Born in New Mexico, but obviously played high school basketball here.
Yeah, he grew up in Bountiful, right?
Yeah.
All right. So, yeah, great night to be me. Most nights are great to be me, but I'm super excited to have those 3 games on in the studio tonight. It's going to be a fun night to be a basketball fan.
Merrill, this is Wikipedia, so you know it's right. It says Merrill was recruited by Stanford and Princeton, but committed to Utah State. Both of those might have been a mistake, Sammy. But good for you. You're in the NBA now. You're doing just fine.
Not a mistake. He's in the NBA now.
Yeah, you're
not a mistake.
You're doing pretty well.
Officially not a mistake.
By the way, it's probably a hard one to tell mom and dad.
How dare you criticize the fine education you can get at Utah State? I'm pretty sure that Scotty...
Dad, I've got a full ride to Princeton. Dad, I've got a full ride to Stanford. We're going the Logan route.
Well, do they say anything about full ride in there?
No, they don't.
I'm pretty sure Scotty G. I'm gonna brag about Scotty G's kids, but I'm pretty sure Scotty G's eldest could have gone like anywhere in the country, and he went to Utah State. So you criticizing my guy?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Really?
Yeah.
All right. It's an interesting take. Good for Sam Merrill.
Hey, Sam Merrill's
and
fine.
he's in the NBA.
No, he's made millions.
Which means he's making far more money than he would have even graduating, where'd you say, Princeton?
Princeton. No, he's and probably wouldn't have made the NBA had he gone to Princeton. Maybe if he'd gone to Stanford. So.
Man, those, what's, honestly, 2020 was just such a awful experience for so many reasons. But, Utah State, DJ quoted this stat, they've only won one tournament game in 50 plus years or whatever. That was the year that they were going to win a tournament game.
Absolutely.
And BYU too. Remember how good BYU was? That was Pope's first year, if I'm not mistaken. And BYU was really good too. And then all that came to a screeching halt, obviously, and the rest is history. But we locally were robbed of a very relevant college basketball season. You talk about how college basketball hasn't been relevant in so long. It was relevant that year.
It was, yeah.
And then not so much. But Utah State, I'm pretty confident that Utah State team that won the Mountain West with 2 NBA guys was capable of winning a game, 100%. All right, top 3 stories of the day at KSLSports.com. Coming up next, Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
It's time to break down the biggest stories of the day.
Let's go.
This is the top 3 stories of the day on KSLSports.com. 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
I can still shut down the party. I can hang with anybody.
Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Time for the top 3 stories of the day, KSLSports.com. It's brought to you by J. Brooks Jewelers. 2 locations to serve you. One on Winchester Street across from Fashion Place Mall. The other, Traverse Mountain in Lehigh. All right, Sarah, where are we starting today?
Number 1, the Jazz host the Bulls tonight.
7 o'clock, 6 o'clock pregame. I just rolled over the injuries there, Ben. No Walker Kessler. No Larry Markkinen. No Taylor Hendricks. We got news about his toe yesterday that he's going to be out for at least a week. And then Keontae George battling an illness. We'll see how it goes. Hope he's feeling better.
Lowry is every night the Jazz's best hope to win. I think Walker's top 3 still on the team as far as when Walker plays well. The Jazz are usually pretty good. He kind of is the only one who's setting any type of tone defensively. So losing those 2 guys is a big deal. Taylor Hendricks has been maybe the most interesting thing to watch for the Jazz since the trade deadline. He's kind of been the key storyline. And then, obviously, if you end up losing Keontae George, that's another major piece. Now, the Jazz beat the Wizards without those guys. At least Taylor Hendricks didn't play the second half. Keontae George only played 5 minutes. We will see if Keontae plays tonight. But this is going to be a tough game for the Jazz. And the Bulls, after a truly horrendous start to the season, have not been awful. They've been playing basically 500 basketball for a while.
Yeah, but here's what doesn't make sense about the Bulls is they shouldn't be awful.
No, they shouldn't.
Like, if you look at their roster, yeah, they're not winning the title anytime soon, but they shouldn't be awful, which isn't a good sign. And I've never thought Billy Donovan was a good NBA coach. Have you?
No, they are run poorly. They've got bad ownership. Jerry Reinsdorf is the worst owner in
Your
sports,
guy.
probably. He's one of the worst owners in sports, certainly. But maybe when you consider the 2 teams that he owns and how poor they all perform, considering they're in a great city with legendary histories.
But you support the man somehow.
I like the White Sox. I don't support Jerry Reinsdorf.
That's
I hope
exactly
he sells both
what you
teams. I hope he sells both teams immediately. But yeah, they should not be this bad. They're weird. They again, if you want to criticize the Jazz for making trades at the trade deadline when they could have gotten into the play-in tournament, that's fine. I don't know if they actually could have now, considering that it's the Warriors and the Lakers that are probably going to fill those 9th and 10th seeds. But regardless, look at what the Bulls are not doing. They're not making those types of trades. They're not trying to do anything to improve their future odds or better their likelihood of, getting a good draft pick that could change their franchise. They're just stuck in mud, and they seem content to be there. Good enough to get in the play-in tournament, get demolished in the play-in tournament game, and then have a long off season with really no upside. And they just keep doing that. So there's worse spots to be. They are truly stuck in the middle and seem fine being there. So yeah, the Bulls are bad. I expect them to beat the Jazz tonight, but it should be a pretty competitive game.
Okay, here's my comparison for the Bulls real quick. There's an episode of Bluey
Okay.
where the dad, Bandit, wants to teach his kids about, like, hard work can be rewarding. And they want an ice cream. And he said, sure, you can have an ice cream. And then he says, ragdoll. And he just goes limp and falls to the ground. And tells his kids, if you can get me to the car and we can get to the ice cream store,
I'll buy you an ice cream.
I'll buy you an ice cream. And so the whole episode is these poor kids trying to get their heavy adult father out the door and into the car. And he's keeps saying work smarter, not harder, all this thing. But isn't that what the Bulls are? They're not trying to do anything. They're not trying to lose. They're not trying to win.
Yeah.
They're just ragdoll.
Yep. And
like there's enough in the tank that you could do something.
Yeah, no, I
but you're just not.
Kobe
And
White
you're
is
not,
a pretty good player.
Yeah, you're not rebuilding either. You're just ragdoll.
DeMar's a pretty good player. But yeah, I do think you get to these spots
A rudderless vessel.
where guys are just like, you know what?
Nah.
Paychecks keep coming in. Like every game, I get a game check, and
I've been out to the bars in Chicago. They're pretty fun.
they're what's the drink in Chicago?
Chicago has a drink?
Yeah, they've got.
It's
that
called beer?
No, it's a very specific drink. Regardless,
They have green beer sometimes when it's St. Patrick's Day.
Malort.
Malort?
Yeah, Malort.
I don't think I've had that. I
Neither
haven't
have
had the pleasure.
Neither have I. But yeah, right. You just they're not trying. We're not trying. We're kind of just like we're doing what we can because we're talented enough to win games, and like we're kind of competitive guys, so we're gonna beat the teams that we should beat, and that's fine. And that's just who the Bulls are, and it's crazy because it was one of the great franchises of the 90s and never did anything since then. So they've got a couple of young guys that are kind of interesting. They're usually pretty beat up. They're a little old in some spots, but they do have more veteran talent available to them tonight than the Jazz do.
Oh, lots more. Yeah.
And if the Jazz lose tonight after wins by the Hawks and the Rockets last night, the Jazz would pull into an even tie for the 8th worst record in the NBA and would thus be in position to hold on to their draft pick. So kind of a big game.
Yeah, anybody can lose some games.
Yeah.
Just don't play veterans. But Chicago, I mean, you should thank your lucky stars. For everybody who likes to complain about the Jazz, you should thank your lucky stars that you're not a Bulls or White Sox fan.
Absolutely. They at times they have all the talent. They're set up well, and they squander it.
They squandered multiple years of Michael Jordan.
Yep.
You remember he retired for 2 years for some reason, and they basically chased him out of town in a weird way.
Yeah.
I mean, he played again for the Wizards. How does that work?
He doesn't go back to Chicago very often.
Bad management.
Yep.
Even to that Last Dance movie, the Michael Jordan propaganda piece. Scottie Pippen, I had forgotten that he held out of a huge portion of that season.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What are you doing?
Yep, it's crazy.
And Scottie signed the contract or whatever, and I get it, but you've got Michael Jordan in his prime, he's in his mid-30s, so you're going to squabble with Scottie Pippen, the legend?
Well, then at the reason they called it the Last Dance is because they knew it was, because
They knew it was
basically the
over.
management were like, we're not going to do this again.
We're not bringing it
next year.
back because we don't apparently like having Michael Jordan on our
You've
team.
got the greatest team ever assembled, and you don't want to bring it back?
After a title?
Okay, I guess. This is going to be your last run. You're not going to bring Phil back? Like, what? Yeah. A joke.
No, imagine if Golden State knew that Kevin Durant was going to leave because they knew that Kevin Durant was going to leave, and we're like, let's chase away Steph and Clay. And,
don't need anybody.
Yeah, we'd just kickstart it into the rebuild. Oh, terrible. Remember the Paxson Foreman general manager duo thing that they let happen for like a decade?
Well, and they've gone out and they hired the former Denver Nuggets GM, and he's done nothing. He literally doesn't make trades. He won't make a trade in season. At a time when they need to move these guys, they got to take a step back before they're ever going to take another step forward, and they won't do it.
Because that GM will get fired.
Outside of lucking into Derrick Rose, they've done absolutely nothing since Michael Jordan.
Well, and then ruined it by having him with the wrong coach.
Yep.
All right, what's next?
Dartmouth men's hoops is looking to unionize.
This is a big deal. For the first time ever, college sports teams did vote to unionize. Dartmouth men's basketball team, by a vote of 13-2, curious how those other two kids are doing, voted to join its local service employees union.
That's great.
I'll be curious how it pans out. My suspicion is this is not going to spread communism across the college basketball. By the way, that's a joke. I don't. But
it could basically. I mean, well, college sports might already be ruined, but here's my problem with this whole thing, Ben, and what I don't hear anybody really talking about is that there are specific definitions of words that mean things. Student means something. Employee actually has a definition and a meaning. Like, you can laugh at the term student athletes all you want, but the whole point of the sport is that they're students. Ben, how did college sports originate? It was like Harvard calling William and Mary and saying, well, we've got some gals here that like to play field hockey.
Yeah.
And I bet you do too. How about we get them together and we'll see which school is the mightiest.
Yeah.
And people were like, oh, I'm somewhat interested in which school is the mightiest. Maybe I'll go watch, see which school can field the best team of insert sport here. And we'll have some fun with it. That's the whole point. It wasn't which faculty is the best field hockey team. No, because last I checked, being a student has a meaning. And that's the point of college sports. It's not who can assemble the best group of employees that can go play another. Like, you're detaching the meaning of everything. Like, you're detaching the purpose of it. And that will ruin it because that's why people love it. Why do Ute and Cougar fans and Aggie fans love it? Because they were peers with those athletes at one point. You do identify with it because it was a group of our students that beat a group of your students. That is still the lure of the sport. It's not a professional league. If it were a professional league, nobody would watch it.
I see. I think you're too altruistic there. I disagree with you. I think it is baked in enough That is the basis of it, but it is baked in enough that people will follow it regardless now at this point because it has created enough fan bases. And you don't only have fans. Like, how many Utah fans do you think are jumping in your mentions on Twitter that didn't ever go to Utah? Like, it's a bunch of people. Like, a bunch of people adopt it just because it's a part of the culture locally. So I think you're a little altruistic
But why is
about
it
that.
popular? It starts with why is the student section always the heart of the whole event?
It's not one or the other exclusively, in my opinion. I think both are true. I think
why don't the bees have the following that the Utes or the Cougars do? They're a lot closer to being the best in the world than Utah college basketball. Why don't they go?
You're right. It's not. I don't think it's baked in culturally the way college football has beat that rap.
But
They've
let's
gotten
get
over
back
that hill.
to definitions for a second. If a group of humanities students called the university and said, "We've decided to unionize. We want salt and vinegar chips in the commissary," or whatever you want to call it, they would laugh so hard. They would laugh, and then they would hang up the phone.
But if the
because they would say, "You are students."
But if the humanities class was generating millions of dollars of income, they would listen.
They do generate millions of dollars of income.
Not the way athletes do.
Yes, they do.
No, they do not
Yes,
at all.
they
No,
do.
They don't
And you know what?
all.
At research institutions, the student research is generating millions and millions of dollars. Millions. How many of the engineering students have unionized? Zero. Because they're getting something. It's called an education.
But you can get into medical students and they get paid. There are issues where you can get money for your residency, right? Like, there are issues where this is bled
Because
over.
they're working at a professional hospital.
And that's exactly what these kids
No,
are going to
it's
say.
not.
They're going to say the exact same thing. We are working at a professional arena where there are professionals.
They're not
there.
working.
That's the argument.
They're not working.
That's the argument. And they are generating income. And
Are they?
Yes, 100%. They are generating tons of income.
Go right back to the bees argument. Are they?
Well, again,
If they were the ones, because they're so good at what they do, that are generating all these billions of dollars, why aren't minor league sports?
obviously there's a difference.
Thank you.
Yeah, there's a difference. Yeah, obviously there's a difference. And college football generates billions of dollars. Mm-hmm. So people watch it.
Is that because of the football player, or is that because of any million of other reasons that have nothing to do with the football player?
I think it has a lot to do with the football player. Mostly the football player. In my opinion. We'll see. We'll see where this goes.
Oh, well, then why aren't they watching why did the AFL sink?
It's hard to get a foothold. It's just hard to generate that interest. It is. It's really
Because
hard to get
it's
a
not
foothold.
about being the best in the world or the best or I'm the best. It has nothing to do with that.
Allegiance matters. Allegiance absolutely
Is
matters.
what is generating all of this.
No, it's not all of it.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's because the linebacker is so good at what they do. No, it's not.
It's a part of it. It is a part of it.
A part of it. Okay.
It's a huge part of it.
Not a huge part of it.
Yes, it is.
All right.
Yes, it is.
What's next?
Number 3, Isaiah Thomas signs with the Stars.
Now we're talking. Former two-time NBA All-Star, who I have no idea what his relationship is with Danny Ainge, but you remember notoriously became a star with the Celtics when Danny Ainge was running the show in Boston, gets traded for Kyrie Irving, and his career quickly derails from that hip injury that he had. But he's back in Utah and trying to show that he could help an NBA team for this stretch run. 35 years old, 5'9", but going to be playing with the Salt Lake City Stars.
I'm happy for my dude, Jonathan Reinhardt.
Yeah. People will go.
Because he's going to sell tickets.
People want to see Isaiah Thomas.
For one, I mean, he's. I think he was as successful as he is, partly because he is a really charismatic guy, and he's got this like tough guy chip on the shoulder thing that's really easy to identify, or identify with, and in a lot of different ways has put his money where his mouth is when it comes to earning that. Kind of tough reputation, but he's always got a smile on his face. And how did he win the dunk contest? Didn't he jump over Dwight Howard or something like that?
He didn't win the dunk contest. That was Nate Robinson.
Oh, that was Nate Robinson. You're right. But the stories about him with the Celtics in the playoffs are legendary. So good for him. You only are in basketball playing age window once in your life, and so if you want to maximize it, knock yourself out.
And that hip injury really cost him because
yeah.
he was expecting to make a bunch of money. He was averaging 30 points a game, I think, his last year in Boston. The hip injury, he never gets the same, even close to financial benefit. And only, understand, I'm saying only, but compared to what a lot of guys make in the league, he only made $34 million. For a two-time All-Star, that's unbelievably low.
Well, when your edge is that you're the most athletic guy on the floor, which was his.
Quickest, yeah.
And when you have a hip injury, and you're what is he, 5'10"?
5'9", yeah, he's little.
It's tough.
Yep.
When you lose your edge.
Yep.
It's tough. All right, stay tuned. We'll have more coming up next. Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
The sports you love, the teams you can't live without.
Get a sense of urgency!
This is Jake Scott and Ben Anderson on 97.5 The KSL Sports Zone.
You say you'll be down in 5. The smell of your perfume is floating down the stairs. You're fixing up your hair like you do. I know that I'll be a mess.
Jake and Ben, it is a Win Tickets Wednesday, and it's your chance to win right now. Caller number 12, 801-575-ZONE. You're going to get a pair of tickets to go see Dan and Shay at Utah First Credit Union Amphitheater on September 20th, 801-575-ZONE. Is this them? This doesn't sound country at all.
Are they considered country still?
They're like pop country, yeah.
This
They do
sounds
a
more
lot
country.
They do a lot of like features with Kelly Clarkson and like pop singers. So they're definitely on the like edge of pop contemporary country rather than like twangy.
Doesn't
Classic.
and this was true a couple days ago. I don't know if it still is, but doesn't Beyonce have the number one country song in the country? Country song in the country.
Not something I consider country, but yes.
I think that's awesome. But it is interesting how the lines between pop and country have been blurred.
Been doing it for a while. Lil Nas X completely erased him, right? With what was his song? What was the big country song that he had?
Old Town Road.
Old Town Road, yeah.
With Billy Ray Cyrus.
Yeah, and it's never. Everyone realized, hey, there's $1 trillion there.
Post Malone's
Yep.
doing like an
Right.
album with the country artists right now.
You know what I love that, by the way. And you know what I love about that? I think it's the same reason that I really love covers. I love to hear one great artist take on a song or a genre or whatever.
Sure.
Like we talk about how Kiss, they got pigeonholed as one thing and could never be something else. Wouldn't a big Kiss fan want to hear their take on, I don't know, R&B? I'd be interested to hear Kiss's take on R&B.
You might be unique in that one.
One thing I like about Pink is like every artist is like a different. She has like a punk album, and she has I don't know if she's ever done a country album, but she's got a bunch of different takes on genres of music, which I think I love that stuff. I think it's really interesting. Now, some bands, like everybody bends over backwards to call the Beatles the best thing since sliced bread, but they tried to remember when they were doing their take on like Indian music and stuff. Got a little out there for me.
Yeah.
But I do like that. I like to hear Beyonce's take on country. I think that's really cool.
Celine Dion's Christmas song, God Bless Us Everyone, which is like this, it's not Mariah, but it's like a big Christmas song, was written by Dee Snider. It is where
Really?
he's made
Twisted Sister?
all of his money.
Oh, I'm sure.
Because he's just gone broke a bunch of times because of...
But he's got that writing credit.
But
which-
he has this writing credit for this huge song that he makes a ton of royalties on, but Dee Snider writing a Christmas song.
Oh, yeah.
But you get pigeonholed into what you can and can't do.
Right.
And you don't really get to leave that because you're Dee Snider of Twisted Sister and you're supposed to have this long curly blonde mullet and they don't really want to hear you sing a Christmas song called God Bless Us Everyone. But you have the ability to do it. But you really, again, as you've talked about, don't be Gene Simmons and go out in the makeup because once you have the makeup on, you can't take it off.
It's over.
That's
for
who you are forever.
That's it. I mean, right down to John Paul Jones, the Led Zeppelin bass player. If you've ever looked at his credits, he's on like every album that was made from like 1960 through like 1968. He was a studio musician, basically. I mean, all these different types of music and stuff like that. And then he's famous for this one type when he actually decided to join a band and whatever. But he was so much more immensely talented than even Led Zeppelin.
Sure.
Or like Dave Grohl's a modern example of that, I suppose, because he was a studio musician right before joining Nirvana.
I wonder how he was like 16. He was a kid. He was a young person. But I wonder how many athletes have that same problem. You get typecast as one thing when you're like, no, I can do.
It happens all the time.
I'm more than just a screen and roll big guy or whatever. You know what I mean? Like I actually could do a lot more, and I could help you in a different way. And because you kind of just have this reputation of what you have done well historically or what role you've played, you won't get a chance to do something else.
You want to know when this bit the Jazz? Paul Millsap.
Yes, exactly right.
They had him projected as a rebounding power forward.
Tough guy.
And it didn't turn out that was
his best skill?
His best Paul Millsap.
Yeah.
But it happens all the time in sports.
They were too unimaginative with Paul.
You know, Brook Lopez was bouncing around the league?
Right. Oh, I mean,
he was pert near out of the league.
He was a back-to-the-basket scorer early at Brooklyn. And they were like, yeah, this kid's super talented. Went to the Lakers and was a backup, and it was like, this guy's a bum. Like, he's washed. And the Bucks were like, what if he shoots threes and is a great defensive player, which is nothing he had done at all at the beginning of his career. And then probably had a 2 or 3 year run where he was a top 3 center in the NBA. It's past him now. He's not that good anymore. He's good. He's not that good anymore. But, yeah, he's absolutely reinvented himself, and good for the Bucks, who allowed him to reinvent himself.
But some typecasts, like, people are really a one-trick pony and can't get over it, though. And sometimes it doesn't matter. Like, Manu Ginobili was absolutely a type. You knew what he was going to do every time he got the ball, and you still couldn't stop it.
There are probably star players who do this that hurt themselves, who don't allow themselves to become role players because they said, no, I'm a star.
Oh, Tracy McGrady.
I've been a star.
Yeah.
I need to be a star. And it's like, no, you would be the best seventh man in the NBA, but because at one time, you were a max player scoring 25 a game, and you won't embrace that, or you never learned how to do it, and now you won't learn how to do it, you're not going to figure it out.
Tracy McGrady went from underachieving in the playoffs against the Jazz to basically out of the league overnight because he would not fall in line. Carmelo.
Yeah.
And then T-Mac eventually did and won a title as a bench player on the Spurs. But that was like, he was out of the league for like 2 years before that.
Carmelo washed out of the league, tried to come back with the Rockets and couldn't figure it out because he kept trying to be a star.
Yep.
And then kind of had 2 years where they were like, hey, just help.
That's not your role anymore, dude.
Help.
Yeah, that's not it.
Yeah.
A lot of stars. Like Vince Carter's talked about that a lot, how he embraced it.
Yeah, and extended his career probably 6 or 7 years.
Played until he was 55.
Yep.
All right. We'll have more coming up next. Don't forget, What You Got Wednesday is coming up at 11:30. It's Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Who's got it better than us?
Your home for the best sports coverage in Utah. You're listening to Jake Scott and Ben Anderson on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
I can honestly understand why it's over. I can go through the motions.
Jake and Ben. Dan and Shay again?
See, this is a
isn't
little
country.
More, it's a little more twangy than the other song.
Oh, yeah, okay. Okay. I want to remind you about the Hercules Hero of the Week. Nominate the youth sports volunteer that you know for the Hercules Hero of the Week. Submit your nomination at kslsports.com/contests and listen every Thursday afternoon to JJ and Alex for the winner. Help us celebrate the efforts of those volunteers making an impact with the Hercules Hero of the Week, sponsored by Hercules Credit Union. By the way, Sarah started the show so mean today. And by playing A Drop I Hate. Jeremy weighs in. He says, thank you to Sarah for that incredible introduction to the show. Haven't LOL'd out loud like that in my office since hearing about Jake's golf course debacle, driving his car on the 5th green, trying to find the exit. Thank you, Jeremy, for not only bringing up one embarrassing moment in my life, but two.
He means this drop?
Spring breaks for
The
getting
color.
out, spreading your stretching your legs.
Nope. Whoa.
That's not it. It's not it. Not it at all.
I got to tell you, the warm weather out there.
Not it at all.
Getting ready for spring break myself.
I like Ben's reaction. He's like, whoa.
Well, Jake is a modest is hottest type of guy. You're pretty reserved.
I'm pretty.
Yeah, you're not like a locker room talk guy, as they say, as the fellas say. Neither am I.
No.
We're not like.
No.
I have no idea. Other than you love your wife, I have no idea what your marriage or
into.
anything is
Yeah.
like. I have no idea.
Right.
So I like that you cut loose there for a minute.
There's also this one that's really funny.
Okay.
No, we
I don't
don't
know
have.
what's your point.
The problem with CONCACAF.
Yeah, CONCACAF. Was that on this? Was that on this station?
Yeah, I think you were out.
I must have
and
been.
PK was covering.
Yeah, I don't remember.
Nice.
So it's so nice to
CONCACAF.
relive those things over and over again. I'm glad that we can entertain people like Jeremy out there with my embarrassing moments.
There's more, but I'll stop
Can
there.
we play Ben's?
Is
Do we
there
have to
one?
play all mine?
Do we have one of mine?
Can we
Ben
play
doesn't
any?
have like anything, like any weird slip-ups, but he says some weird stuff. Like,
Say more weird things. I know I can't be around it. If I'm around it, I can't stop myself. If I have one, I'm going to have 30. I'm going to black out, and you're going to have to bail me out of prison. By the way, I'm going through that right now. That was a candy take. I have a real bad sweet tooth.
or there's this one.
I do the same thing when I'm in heels. Haven't worn heels, but yeah, I have a candy thing. I have a real bad sweet tooth, so I've had to do it. I've cut out candy for the last week and a half. So if I've been grumpy, I apologize. I would like to think some of our listeners also huff gas.
Well, most of your takes seem like you're huffing.
You get a
gas.
broad enough demographic, and you're gonna get a little bit of everybody.
The gas huffers of
Gas.
the world.
Well, there are people.
They're a demographic.
I'll never cease to be surprised by what people can get themselves into.
People ask, "Oh, Ben, you have a radio show. Is it popular? Do people listen?" Oh, we're big with the gas huffers.
Gas huffers.
Gas huffers
Where we-
love us. Did
who
you
we
know?
target.
Did you know that Nielsen tracks that sort of thing?
How much less interesting are the Utah Jazz without Taylor Hendricks for the next week? At least the next week.
I mean, how interesting are they with him?
I
no
mean,
offense to him, but
no, I
like,
think it's what a lot of Jazz fans are watching right now, though. I think a lot of fans
As
are
the
tuning
young
in to
players
see
develop, yeah, I got
Keontae and Taylor, and then Bryce as well. I don't want to short Bryce here, but you have a lot more invested in Taylor Hendricks as the number 9 overall pick, who has such a unique skill set going forward that, you know, Bryce could be a player. Bryce could be an NBA player. I don't know if what he does is necessarily unique on this roster. And that's one of the issues for Bryce Sensabaugh. The Jazz don't need a guy to go out there and take 15 shots. Bryce Sensabaugh would probably love nothing more than to go out there and take 15 shots. In fact, he got a little spark of it in the last game and thought, oh, I'll go behind the back and take a step back three or step back mid-range jumper. And he made it, which is great, but I can't imagine the Jazz wanting to see anything less than that because they just don't need that. They have guys who take a lot of step back mid-range jump shots. You could throw Taylor Horton Tucker out there for 30 minutes a game.
I guess that's where my take is coming from, Ben. Let me put it this way. Like, how often do you go down to the driving range to watch people practice golf? Does that happen
I've
a
never
lot for
done
you?
it. Yeah, I don't do it.
Because watching people practice anything is boring.
Yeah.
And so you're telling me that the most interesting thing going on with the Jazz is watching a young player practice? Well, the bar of interesting did not start very high.
Sure.
And you know what? I like the Jazz, the organization is going to sell what they got. I don't disagree with where they're at as a franchise. If the ultimate goal is to win a title, I mean, this is the stuff that you have to do to flip over franchises because this just in, Ben, people get older, including basketball players, and rosters are constantly evolving. So I certainly understand it. And if you're going to go out there and say, hey, come watch these young players play, okay, that's what you got to sell. But it's not interesting.
No, I'm not going to use the word interesting. One of the things that teams start doing in these last 20 games of the season is they start playing next year's roster today, right? The playoff teams aren't doing that. They're not playing next year's roster. But the Jazz are starting to focus on what next year's roster is going to look like more so than this year. And the really bad teams are really starting to do it. They will play all their young players. But the Jazz are with Taylor Hendricks and with Bryce Sensabaugh and certainly with Keontae George, though he's been playing all year. Those guys are going to be likely a bigger part of the roster next season than they have been this year. Certainly I expect Taylor Hendricks to be. So I guess I'm curious about what do you think next year's roster is going to look like, and is it going to be interesting considering they're likely to add another top 10 pick? At least I will say one more rookie. I have no idea what the Jazz roster looks like. They have 3 first-round or 3 picks. One's going to be the 31st pick, one's going to be the 28th pick or something, and one's going to be top 10. They will likely have at least one more rookie on the team. Do you have any concept of what next year's roster is going to look like? I mean, it's going to be Lowry, it's going to be Keontae, it's going to be Taylor Hendricks. I have no idea about Bryce Sensabaugh. I suspect Walker Kessler's around, but I don't know. Otherwise, I don't know what confidence I have in what the team's going to look like.
No, I have no confidence in what the team's going to look like. I have no idea if those players you listed off are even going to be on the team.
Yeah, they might not be either.
There's at least a chance. I mean, you would have probably put Ochai on that list up until 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So that's difficult to answer. And again, I don't think it's a particularly interesting sell to say, come. I mean, what the web.com golf tour that comes around here, I mean, that's their like slogan is come see the golfers of tomorrow.
Yeah.
And it's a decent draw, but it's not the PGA.
No, it's not.
So, yeah, I don't know. Come see the roster of tomorrow. Well, you know what? You know why I would go to the game? Because it's going to be an NBA game. And it's still going to be competitive, and it's still going to be fun to watch. And we're going to still see 2, 3, 4 plays that make us go, hot dang! This is NBA basketball. That's the draw, I think. But, yeah, if you got to sell, I don't know, some of these guys might be on the team next year. Come watch them play now.
Let's see, is this the worst game the Jazz have the rest of the season? Is this I'm sorry to not sell Jazz tickets here.
No, but the Bulls are uninteresting.
That's my job.
They're not a draw.
I'm trying to think of, if I had to buy tickets to one more Jazz game the rest of the season, home game, is this the worst one? All the road games are good. I've told you all the road games are going to be really interesting unless it's, the last game of the season and the Warriors aren't playing anybody. But still, it's the Warriors or it's the Clippers. Their worst road game remaining is the Sacramento Kings, and that's a playoff team. Maybe if you want to say, okay, the Houston Rockets, that might be a bad game. But, man, the rest of your home games after tonight, Boston, you want to see Boston? I think they're probably the odds-on favorite. I mean, they're definitely the odds-on favorite to win the title. I don't know if that means they're going to win it, but they are the odds-on favorite. The Hawks, you've got the return of Quinn Snyder. Timberwolves, you've got Rudy and Mike. Dallas, you've got Luka. San Antonio, you have Wembanyama. Houston, okay, maybe that game's uninteresting. Cavaliers, you have Donovan Mitchell. Denver, you have Jokic. Houston again. So it's either the 2 Houston games or this Bulls game are the 3 worst games on the Jazz schedule remaining this year.
All right.
Yeah, especially if the young players are hurt.
But none of those games are interesting because of the Jazz.
No, absolutely. The Jazz are selling Victor Wembanyama now.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Jazz are selling who's coming to town.
But that's how it is.
That is part of the league.
That's part of the league. I mean, if you're going to have to rebuild a roster, and I say have to because sometimes you have to. Now, the Jazz in this particular rendition picked their moment. At other times, it's been forced upon them. But sometimes you have to. And this is how it works. And congratulate the Jazz fans for still packing that building and enjoying some NBA basketball because not a lot to sell going on with the Jazz. Come watch Keontae George practice getting to his spots, which is extremely important for the future success of Keontae George. Not interesting.
It's not what most NBA fan bases value.
Now, if Keontae can do a cool alley-oop back to Colin Sexton off the backboard while he's at it, well, terrific. And that's the draw. That's why you go.
Yeah.
Because the NBA is still a show.
Yep.
It's still super athletes doing super crazy stuff that you can't see anywhere else.
It's the most elite athletes at their sport of any sport in the world doing things that are generally pretty fantastic every night.
Right.
There's a couple of moments every night that you cannot see in any other league anywhere else. They're just too athletic and they're too fast and they're too talented that you won't see it in EuroLeague. You can't find it in college. You're right. Is the most elite aspect.
And maybe one of the best sports campaigns ever was the NBA is fantastic. I know you remember that, Ben, but the whole thing is the fans are right on top of the action.
Yeah.
They interact. They had a bunch of silly, footage of refs interacting with fans or coaches or players interacting with fans because the fans are right there, and then the rest of the campaign is Dominique Wilkins doing a windmill. You know, like you're going to be here for the most incredible things you've ever seen, and you're going to be right on top of it. And it still remains the NBA, I think, their best selling point when it comes to actual ticket sales and TV for that matter.
It's extraordinarily intimate.
It's extremely intimate. You know players' faces.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, and nowadays I could pick out Jordan Clarkson's tattoos. You know, like it's a thing. You're And
in baseball, you can heckle a catcher, you can heckle a first baseman. Like you can stand there and yell at him. You can have a conversation with NBA players if you sit close enough. It's weird. I'm surprised at how many players do it, but they're human and they do.
And they do.
And Quinn Snyder, who's the least human person I've talked to in the NBA, who I've been around, he's talked about how he had conversations. He was asked one time if he's ever had any funny interactions, and someone was making fun of him for his vest. And he was talking to the guy about it. Like, you can apparently get into those conversations. I would warn you to be careful. Luka might get you kicked out of a game. Doncic, not Shamanich. But, yeah, you can get kicked out of a game, but you can have those types of intimate relationships.
And you know what's funny about the NBA is why do celebrities pick the NBA? Because you see them.
Because they can be seen.
Because you see them. I know that Mark Pope and his wife went to the Jazz game and sat next to Ryan Smith.
Yep.
At the last Jazz
game.
Spence
Eccles.
You see him. Mitt Romney with the 4 thing. Like, and then, of course, the Lakers are the ultimate example,
Denzel,
right? Or
Jack,
like, or like Spike Lee in New York or whatever it is. But you know they're there because you see it.
Yep.
They're a part of it.
And it helps. That's a benefit to the game.
Like, honestly, Taylor Swift being a big deal at the NFL, like, that's new for the NFL. And they have to have her in the suite.
Yeah.
And
that is funny that we made such a big deal out of Taylor Swift when it's like every NBA game, they would show Jack at every Lakers game.
Right.
They would show, what's the cowboy? Goldstein? What's his name?
Oh, yeah.
Jimmy.
Jimmy Goldstein.
Yeah, Jimmy Goldstein. Like, you recognize him. Super fan. He's
or
at all
Diane
the games.
Cannon or, all those legendary Laker fans. But, I mean, like, examples of it here. Like, the doctor and just passed, right? Or passed not that long ago.
Sick,
who was the rubber chicken during the foul shot or whatever. Like, everybody knew that guy.
Clipper Darrell.
Yeah, Clipper Darrell. I mean, it's really unique with the NBA. The relationship with the fan and the players. And that's why, you know what, Ben, you point out the volatility of that. When you're surprised that they do it. It's something that I hope we don't lose because of the volatility. Does that make any sense?
Mm-hmm.
Like players pushing back on fans because they're right there and fans behaving inappropriately towards players because they can. It is part of what makes NBA basketball great.
I'm pro fan behavior, but I like the idea that we can have an understanding that there is a playful nature to it and leeway to it. And if you sterilize it, it's going to be really boring.
It's going to take away a fun element of the game.
Don't over-sanitize what relationships fans can have. And I'm not saying be abusive. I'm pro good fan behavior. Absolutely.
I think you can even cheer against a player. You know, I'm going to pick my language carefully because, like, I mean, chastise can mean so many things, right?
You can taunt a player.
But, like, you can, boo or say miss it or throw a rubber chicken into the air to get him to miss foul shots. Like, I think everybody understands that people behave differently as fans at a game. You can see that down to junior high games where people are yelling and screaming and doing all that sort of thing. Like, that's a part of what makes it fun. But when you establish a line, that automatically ruins it. But I think most people know what the line is, right?
Absolutely. Because there's 20,000 people at every game, and there might be one troublemaker. Honestly, the overwhelming majority know how to do it. So I hope that they don't overreact to the one guy who's an idiot. And for the most part, they haven't. League's done a good job with that.
What about like, I'm thinking of a small town college atmosphere, maybe not unlike Utah State, where you get some signs and some stuff that crosses the line?
Sure.
Do you just laugh it off and say, ha, 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 students, or should we make more of a big deal about that? And I'm not saying, like, my example I'm thinking of, Brandon Davies His first game back from suspension was a road game in Logan at Utah State. And you could imagine
the signs.
Yep. And not using like even bad over the line words.
Sure.
But implying some inappropriate things.
Right.
Do we just laugh that off and say, silly students, yeah. Or is it like Brandon Davies should never have to go through something like that?
It's certainly, that's a little more controversial. It's not as bad as the horns down thing that BYU got rid of. Like, that's not a thing. Horns down is not a thing.
You know, a great example.
There is a spectrum.
Yeah.
BYU blew that one. That was a mistake.
But the whole Big 12 blew that one. So that's,
yeah, absolutely.
you know what, I'm not even like the Big 12 created a rule that you can't do the horns down thing. Like, they made it a big deal.
Well, that's idiotic. Whoever made that rule, which was Texas.
And then BYU wants to fit into the league,
Yeah,
and so
I get it. Well, that was wrong.
We're not going to have the fan base that is making waves with this particular stupid rule. Yeah, but don't single out BYU, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But yes, that is ridiculous.
That's ridiculous.
That you're so sensitive that is going to be something that you say crosses the line. Actually does disservice to the cause, because when people lose sight of the fact what actually crosses the line.
Yes, exactly right.
Because I do think fans have a responsibility. I don't think you should have to behave like you would in your, like, a church or whatever. But I think most people know where the line is.
And they make the game better. Fans make the game better. That's why Jazz games are still fun. If nobody was at games, nobody would go to games. But fans go to games because other fans go to games. That's a huge part of it.
What You Got Wednesdays coming up next. Jake and Ben, 97.5 The KSL Sports Zone.
Whether it's the Jazz, Utes, Cougars, or Aggies, these guys have got you covered.
Time to eat, fellas.
You're locked on to Jake Scott and Ben Anderson
1, 2, 3, move it.
on 97.5 The KSL Sports Zone.
Jake and Ben, 97.5 The KSL Sports Zone. We want to remind you about the Utah Food Bank. 1 in 10 kids are facing hunger. 1 in 10 kids in Utah are facing hunger, excuse me. But you can feed Utah by leaving a bag of non-perishable food donations on your doorstep by 9 a.m. on Saturday, March 16th. Help Utah Food Bank, Macy's Grocery, and Lynn's fight hunger statewide. Learn more at utahfoodbank.org/feed. Utah. Time for What You Got Wednesday, where Ben and I do 2 5-selection drafts on topics, one sports related, one not. Last week, Ben, did I win both last week?
I think you swept.
You won Best Vanquished Coaches.
Oh, I'll take that. I didn't think I was going to win that one. You were out to an early lead, if I remember correctly.
You're 56-44.
Oh, close. Okay.
I think that's ludicrous. Far be it from me to disagree with our listeners, but I think they were way off. Best Common Courtesies, I won 75-25, which I think is appropriate because I do think I'm more courteous than you.
I agree with you on that.
Well, Ben's were a little niche, too.
What were Ben's? I don't even remember.
Like specific.
Yours were very car-driven.
I did have a lot of car in there.
Yeah.
But isn't that where most people are aggravated?
Sure, I think you're right.
Really appreciate courtesy?
And I'm going to tell you the truth, I didn't even look at that aspect. So you were smart.
All right. What is today's sports topic? I have the first pick.
All right, we're doing top 5 best sports towns.
Again, I always ask this question, is there an obvious number 1 pick?
No.
Sarah?
I think there's 2 that come
to mind.
2 or 3 that come to mind, but I don't know if there's just immediately one.
Okay.
I think the 2 I'm debating between, I don't like sports teams from either place.
And I'm just going to take whichever one of these you don't take.
I'll go with Boston.
Okay. I think that is the number 1 pick. I think that's absolutely the number 1 pick. I've never actually been to Boston.
I haven't either. But their fans all have reputations. Their teams are historic. They've been there forever. Boston.
Celtics, the greatest basketball franchise of all time.
You know, Red Sox fans are fairly notorious.
Patriots, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, the Bruins.
The Bruins, yeah. I think it's the right choice. So I'm curious, I guess I'm going to go New York. Obviously, I think that's number 1. Or number 2, or 1B, however you want to say it. But I'm going to go with New York. Knicks, Jets, Giants. Go down the line. Yankees.
I hate them all.
Don't skip the New York Yankees.
I don't like any of them.
Yeah.
All right, up next, Ben, I'm going to go with the most notoriously negative sports town and take Philadelphia.
That's good. I had them 5 on my board, but that's good.
They've got a reputation. Like that sports town has a rep. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Like their media is tough.
Well, from a radio, the top 2 radio stations in town are both sports stations.
Yeah. No,
That's true in Boston, too.
Jazz fans have experienced it with going after Ben Simmons and kind of the arguments with Donovan Mitchell, Ben Simmons. They're into it right now with the Denver Nuggets fans. Like, it's pretty vitriolic. And it's vitriolic to other states. Even with, it is within itself, but it goes out, like, they hate Nikola Jokic because Jokic is better than Embiid. So, like, they hate Denver right now because Denver has realized what Philly has been unable to do in the NBA Finals. All right, I'll go with... I don't think this is a great sports town, but it has every sport, so I'm going to go with Los Angeles.
I think a notoriously bad sports town, actually.
But it has the Dodgers, and it has the Lakers, and the Clippers are a thing that exists.
But the Lakers are a thing for
Rams just won a Super Bowl.
The wrong reasons.
I agree with you. It's not my favorite take. It's not my favorite draft, but you kind of have to take it.
But fans don't go to Laker games because they're like Celtics fans where they're passionate about the product. They go there to be seen, you know?
And you know what? If they were, I would have taken the LA #1. But you're right, they don't. It is an event. It is not the sports.
And
hardcore.
that was Jerry Buss's whole edge. He was like, we don't have anybody who lives here who cares about anything really, so we're going to make this into the most superficial thing in town.
Showbiz.
And that's why they're a thing.
Yep.
But okay, all right.
Yeah. It's not my favorite pick. I just felt like I had to take them because if you had gotten them also, it would have been tough for me.
I'm going to take my selection, and I don't know, this is probably too early for this, but it really is the market on the come, and it just hosted the Super Bowl.
Yep.
We talked about conference tournaments being down there. Their local fans are super passionate for UNLV and the Golden Knights. I'm going to go with Vegas.
At Vegas 4th on my board, just behind Los Angeles.
It's turning into maybe the best sports market. Well, I mean, we'll see how it goes, but
the only problem is it doesn't have a long history.
Or a ton of people, but yeah.
But it is going to be where we think of American sports. Within 10 years, it's what we're going to think of.
And sports gambling is part of sports, and that's a thing.
They'll do the Summer Olympics there at some point, right? Like, it just can't be that far off.
Absolutely.
It can't be that far off.
100%.
So, all right, I'm going to go with... Now I think we're starting to get a little more niche. I'm going to go with a diehard sports town that doesn't have a lot of success. Give me Detroit. It's a cool sports town. Has all 4 major sports. Tigers are always terrible. Lions have been terrible. Pistons have been bad for 20 years now. But man, when they're good, people show up. Look at Lions fans right now. Red Wings are always relevant. Red Wings are, the great hockey franchise. So give me Detroit. I think it's a cool town. Cool sports town.
All right.
I believe in Detroit.
Man, I'm trying to think here. Man. All right, Ben, I'm going to do this. I feel like all mine are somewhat cliche, but I'm going to say Pittsburgh.
Okay, that's great.
Their fans are dedicated. The Steelers, obviously, but people forget that the Penguins are a really historic and well-run hockey franchise.
You do have 2 Pennsylvania teams.
I know, that's what I'm saying.
But
I think there's overlap there, but and Boston's kind of still in that. I don't know. I feel like I've got a lot of the same here, but I'm going to go with Pittsburgh.
Pittsburgh is the most college town for a professional team. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like, the Steelers are the identity, right, of that whole town.
Right.
It's just kind of what everyone thinks of. The way when I think of Boise, Idaho, I think of Boise State, or I think of some of these college towns. Pittsburgh seems to have that feel for me. So I think it's a good pick. I had them on my board as well. This is a city that probably shouldn't be in this group because they notoriously have lost a team, but I'm going to go with Seattle. I think Seattle's a cool sports town. I like the way that they've rallied around the Kraken. The Mariners are a very cool team, even though they've been bad for a long time. I think Seattle's a cool sports town. They're going to get an NBA team probably in the next decade. Go Vegas and Seattle. Get 2 teams in the West. kick the Timberwolves to the Eastern Conference or something. Memphis. But I like Seattle. I think Seattle's a cool sports town. I wish they hadn't lost the Sonics.
Dallas.
Okay.
I'll tell you why I picked Dallas after we're done, but I'm going to go with Dallas. Cowboys, Rangers. I mean, right into
Mavericks.
TCU.
They've had success.
Yeah.
Won titles.
Dallas.
Stars. All right, I'll go Chicago. With the Bulls in town tonight.
Two baseball teams.
Two
a football
baseball
team.
teams.
Yeah, I probably should have gone Chicago. We probably both. Chicago, that's actually a steal as your last pick.
Yeah. I thought you were going to take Chicago.
Yeah, I should have. You know where I got pigeonholed, though, Ben? Is I was thinking that the southeast part of the United States is a huge sports area, but seems to be unrepresented when it comes to sports towns. Like, and maybe that's because college sports is so big down there. Like, do you take...
Sarah said Tampa, but I said that's just a lucky to be a live town. If you make it out,
you can't support a baseball team that poorly and be...
Correct.
But they've got the Bucks, they've got the Lightning.
They do.
They do have some college teams there.
Yeah, but see, Ben takes Detroit, and Detroit supports all the worst teams.
Yeah.
Tampa is good at baseball.
But no one thinks of Tampa as a
nobody
sports
goes.
town. It's not what it's known
Like,
for.
I thought about Miami, but honestly, do you take, like, Knoxville? You know, because they're putting 100,000 fans in a stadium to see an average Tennessee football team. Like, that's pretty amazing.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I don't think it would have gotten any votes. Like, nobody thinks of that. Like, Alabama, Tuscaloosa? But does anybody think of that as a great sports town?
Tuscaloosa would have been my next pick. I know you haven't made your pick yet. That would have been my next pick. Because when I think of Tuscaloosa, I think of sports.
Do I have one more pick to go? I thought I was done. I have one more? Yeah, we're done. What are you talking about?
I'm sorry. I thought you had one more.
No.
You know what town is great, low-key as well, even though it's two cities, the Twin Cities, Minnesota.
I was thinking
St.
San
Paul.
Francisco.
Yeah, I was
maybe.
going to say San Fran was my other one.
All right. I don't know. I think I lost that one. Next.
Do you want to recap?
Sure.
Yes, please.
Okay, Jake, you have 1 Boston, 2 Philadelphia, 3 Vegas, 4 Pittsburgh, and 5 Dallas. Ben, you have 1 New York, 2 Los Angeles, 3 Detroit, 4 Seattle, and 5 Chicago.
Okay.
I think Chicago's going to win it for you. All right, next.
Okay, for our non-sports, we're doing best Tommy Lee Jones movies.
Why? I love Tommy Lee Jones.
I've had this on the list of like ideas for a long time, and I brought it up to Jake, and Jake was like, "That's funny, let's do it."
Okay.
Yes.
I'm always into actor drafts. So.
I love Tommy Lee Jones.
So do I. You and I have both said, or we had talked about how that's a little bit, if you were to cast PK today, maybe Tommy Lee, even though he's quite a bit older.
All right. Ben gets the first pick here.
Well, I'll ask the obvious. Is there a clear number 1 pick? I think there is.
Probably.
The Fugitive.
Yeah.
He won an Oscar for it, right? I think he won.
He did. Best supporting actor.
And he's awesome in it. He does drive that movie. As good as Harrison Ford is, that's a Tommy Lee Jones vehicle.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, I think that's probably the number 1. Let's see. I'm going to go with No Country for Old Men.
Yeah, I was hoping you would skip over it.
No, I did not.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah, it's a great movie.
It's one of the best movies of the last 20 years.
It's not a quote-unquote Tommy Lee Jones movie, to your point, but it
might be my favorite role of his, though, even more than The
Yeah, and
Fugitive.
he's great.
He's so good in it. Such a good movie. All right, number 3, or for me, my second pick, Men in Black. It's a very funny Tommy Lee Jones role. He's good in it. He's a great counter to Will Smith. Men in Black's funny. That movie actually holds up very well. I like Men in Black.
I don't like Will Smith movies.
No, that's the problem. Is I'm not a Will Smith guy anymore. He's poisoned the well of himself for me. But Men in Black's funny, and Tommy Lee Jones again steals that role.
All right, my next pick is actually my favorite.
I know.
And so I'm not going to let you get it. I'm going with Cobb.
Oh, okay. Not where I was going.
Have you seen the movie Cobb?
I haven't seen Cobb.
It's great. Now, it's based on a book that might be largely fictional. I've actually read the book. Might be embellished a tad bit. But as a cranky old Ty Cobb, he's amazing.
Yeah. He doesn't miss. He's in bad movies. He doesn't miss when he's in those movies.
And I know which one you're going to pick now.
Oh,
That's
interesting.
all right.
I
Go ahead.
kind of wonder if I'm not going to. I've got 3 left on my board. I might be able to get all of them. I probably won't. I'm going to go with Lincoln, actually.
It's a great answer. Not what I was thinking of, but it's a great
I'm going to
answer.
go with Lincoln. He's low-key the hero of that movie.
Oh, he's great in it.
He's so good in it.
I like that movie's underrated.
Very good movie. A weird Spielberg movie that doesn't get a lot of credit.
It should get all of the credit. How interesting. The basis of that movie is the political wranglings that go into ending slavery.
Yeah.
Like everybody knows the Civil War ended slavery, which is true,
Kind
but
of true,
obviously there's a lot more nuance to it. And how did he get the votes and all that sort of thing? I find that stuff really
It's a
fascinating.
biopic that's focused on like a 6-month run, not somebody's entire
it's
life.
focused on like a week.
Yeah, it's great.
It's not even 6 months. It's like 1 week.
So I'll take it.
No, that's good. I thought you were going to take Lonesome Dove. Because I'm
Okay,
taking
it's a miniseries, but I'll let you take it.
Lonesome Dove. Is that all right?
Yeah, I'll let you take it. It's a miniseries, but Lonesome Dove rules. Have you read it?
Yes.
I might need to.
I've read it multiple
I told
times.
you I don't read 1,000-page books. I might need to read Lonesome
I've read both prequels and both sequels.
What's his name? He's not Gus. Gus is
No, he's not Augustus McCrae. No,
Yeah.
he's Woodrow Call.
yeah. That rules. If you haven't seen Lonesome Dove, it's a little 90s-y, but it's worth it.
Amazing. And the cast is incredible.
All right, I'm going to go with one that is actually a great Tommy Lee Jones role in a terrible movie, but he kills it in this movie.
I know which movie you're thinking.
Batman Forever.
Yeah, he is good in Batman Forever.
Batman
and that's a
Forever
terrible movie.
Stinks. That movie stinks, but he is so good as Two-Face.
He is good.
He's outlandish and wild and weird.
And like born to play that role.
Is so good as Two-Face in Batman Forever. Kind of an iconic role for such a bad movie.
I'm picking too much with my heart in this one, so I'm sure I'll lose. But this is my last one, Sarah. This is number 4 for me. Oh, I'll save this one then, because there's no way you're picking it. I'm gonna go with JFK.
That's what I was gonna pick.
He is so weird in JFK.
Is. Clay Shaw.
It does not play. If we were talking about getting pigeonholed or typecast or whatever, if there is a typecast of Tommy Lee Jones, it's not that movie.
No. He's got some weird roles. I won't say the other weird role that's very weird that he does, but it's pretty popular. We can talk about it after. But yeah, you know what I like about him is he's willing to not just be the old crusty guy.
No.
Which he plays as well as anybody ever, but he steps out of it. Okay, this is a movie that nobody's ever seen. I love this movie, though. I would highly recommend it. It does have an R rating, so understand that. It's called The 3 Burials of Melquiades Estrada. It's so right up your alley, Jake.
Yeah.
So just put 3 burials. He's a rancher.
I was gonna say that's a long name.
That's why nobody saw it. It's such a good movie.
All right.
He's a rancher and has a friend that gets killed.
I'll watch it.
Yeah, it's worth it.
I'm going with The Client.
Okay.
I love Grisham. It's one of my guilty pleasures. And that's a particularly good Grisham movie, and he is good in it. But he's good in everything. That's the whole point of it. He's
good in everything.
He's good in everything. That Batman Forever movie is the worst movie ever made. And he is fantastic.
Yep. Another weird movie that I like that he did, he's in Natural Born Killers, and he's crazy in it. You know what I mean? Because that whole movie's crazy.
I really don't like that movie.
Neither do I.
So I wasn't going to pick it.
But I like that he does something that is so bizarre, and it is a very bizarre movie. So, recap.
That, like in life, we swing from one side to the other. Like we somehow don't like whatever we've become, and so we go completely the other side. I'll give you a sports example. Like when Utah moved off of Rick Majerus, they hired the complete opposite of Rick Majerus in every single way.
Bronco Mendenhall was a reaction hire.
Right.
He's great.
But we all do it. Natural Born Killers was 100% Woody Harrelson being like, I'm not the lovable Woody character from Cheers.
Yes.
I've got to find some other way to shock people into thinking that that's not me.
Yes. Which is funny, he kind of is who he is. He has kind of ended up playing these kind of funny, goofy, enjoyable
It was probably good for his career. I just don't like that movie.
No, he's more Woody than I think he is Natural Born Killers.
Oh, very much.
Another good movie that I didn't draft, Double Jeopardy is a low-key good 90s crime thriller. That's like goofy.
The Sean Connery movie?
No, Double Jeopardy. It has Diane. Who's the woman from Unfaithful? Anyways.
Oh, Diane.
No, Ashley Judd. Excuse me.
Oh.
It's Ashley Judd. It's not Diane. It's Ashley Judd. It's fine. It's a popcorn movie. You can throw it on for an hour and a half and get your money's worth.
You know, Ashley Judd is my white whale, Ben.
What does that mean?
Utah played Kentucky in the NCAA tournament and lost to them. What year was that? Was that the Bogut year?
Okay, that Utah, Kentucky.
Yeah, it wasn't.
Not.
You know how they lost to Kentucky like 5 times in a row or something like that? It was like the last time. It was like, I think it was Bogut. Anyway, I was a young producer at the time, and I selected Ashley Judd as the interview that I was going to get before that game. And I tracked down agents. I did everything I possibly could to get her to interview on the station before the game, and I failed. I was like, I'm going to be the star. I'm going to be the one who landed the Ashley Judd interview because she's a huge Kentucky basketball fan.
Close. You never got it.
Never got it.
Cats by 90, baby. That's their hashtag.
Let's recap.
All right, Jake, you had 1, No Country for Old Men, 2, Cobb, 3, Lonesome Dove, 4, JFK, and 5, The Client. Ben, you had 1, Fugitive, 2, Men in Black, 3, Lincoln, 4, Batman Forever, and 5, 3 Burials.
I think The Fugitive's going to win this for you.
I think so too. But I like every movie on your list, even though I haven't seen Cobb.
You'd like it. It's good.
Yeah, and you'll like 3 Burials because it's just Tommy Lee Jones.
Oh, man, Jason suggested this one, and you know what, Jason? And Larry suggested this, and I'm mad that I did not pick it. Space Cowboys, because I love that movie.
Find a Tommy Lee Jones movie that's not good.
Space Cowboys is great. Lighthearted. Good message. Clint Eastwood. What is it? Clint Eastwood, James Garner, Tommy Lee Jones, and Donald Sutherland. God, that's a great movie for 6 Degrees of...
Yeah.
Separate Kevin Bacon or whatever. All right, stay tuned. Wrap up the show next. 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
The sports you love, the teams you can't live without.
Get a sense of urgency!
This is Jake Scott and Ben Anderson on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Jake and Ben wrapping it up on a Wednesday, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. We have a little breaking news, and then Sarah has a tweet for us, apparently.
Okay.
Ben, the breaking news?
Keontae George officially out tonight, so the Jazz are extraordinarily shorthanded. No Walker Kessler, no Lowry Markkanen, no Keontae George, no Taylor Hendricks, which is 3 of their 4 starters and 4 of their top 6 players.
You know who we're going to see a lot of tonight?
GHT.
Hot dog!
Mr. Hot Dog himself.
Hot dog!
I'll be curious if we see Jason Preston, the Stars kid that a lot of Jazz fans are clamoring for.
Bill S. Preston's cousin?
Yeah, probably.
Well, Bill S. Preston is a fictional character.
Yeah. Jason Preston might as well be.
All right, now we have a tweet.
Yes, this came in earlier, but I've been hanging on to it. GD Ute fan tweeted at us saying, hilarious stuff in response to all of the drops we played earlier. But tell us about Matt Harpring's back injury, Ben or Jake. Do we need you to tell us about it? I think we do.
Matt Harpring will not travel with the team and had his MRI revealed degeneration of a joint in his spine and a slightly bulging disc in his back.
Is your voice high there because of the quality of the audio, or were you just younger?
I was just younger.
Just younger.
That was something I had to work on when I got into business.
You were a little pitchy.
I was told that I need to bring the voice down a little bit.
The octave down.
Which is something you can do, believe it or not.
Yeah, you can. Well, one of the things is slow down. And the first thing you do, and I still do it pretty poorly, but everyone when they first get on the radio talks really fast.
Really fast, especially for a sports update.
In fact, I was on a different station, my very first station I was on, and I was doing my first show, very first time. It may have even been an interview. And shout out, Scott Gerard texted me and said, slow down. And I've always thought about it. A little piece of advice that...
Slow down.
He just said, just slow down a little bit. He said, you're saying good stuff, just talk slower. And yeah, then you're not talking like this. Drop it a little. And people can hear what you're saying.
Do you realize that I did not dump that either, and I could have? I learned a lesson that day. Like, don't Don't just think, when you can do something about it, do something about it.
But
I was like, I bet nobody will notice. And then I look over at the phone lines and it just goes with people like lining up to laugh at me. Not get on the show, but just be like, hey, you moron.
This was just a sports update?
Yeah.
You were producing for?
I think it was the afternoon or something at the time. I don't even remember what show it's on, honestly. But yeah, that was a sports update.
I kind of miss sports updates, if I'm going to tell you the truth.
I don't think I was good at sports updates, so I don't.
Most people aren't, but it's a good chance to get some reps.
All right, stay tuned. Hans and Scotty G are coming up next. We'll talk to you tomorrow.
Sarah.
Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.